What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and I haven't watched all of the games from last week, so I wanted to make a video to go through them, some of the scoreboards. I know a little bit of what happened, but I need to look at the scoreboards and maybe even like some of the game highlights to really know what's going on here. But we'll go region by region, the four main regions that we pay attention to. And we'll start in Korea. So in Korea, we have Nongshim against a Freak of Freaks. Nongshim is an interesting team. A lot of people didn't really expect them to do this well this split. They were already thought of as like a top 5 or 6 team last year, but I think that they outperformed really everybody's expectations. A Freak of Freaks are a team that I don't really have a good feel for in general. I just don't think they're that good. But let's go lane by lane. So, Rich against Keen should be pretty even. Keen, I think, was probably a more highly touted prospect coming in because Rich was always thought of as like a person who changed games, but Rich has done pretty well. Peanut against Dread. Peanut, in my opinion, is definitely the better jungler. Just has always been that way. Gory against Fly. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that just focus on Korea maybe like Fly better because Fly has had some okay performances in the past couple of years, I think. But Gory's probably the better prospect overall. And then Diokdom and Kellen against Leo and Lehens. I don't know much about Leo. Lehens is a good player. Viper, Lehens was the bot laner, the support with Viper when they were on Griffin. So definitely a good support. I opened this up because I wanted to see some champion stuff. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, by the way, when I'm recording this. So just keep that in mind if I seem out of it. I don't think I am. But today in their so it seems like Nongshim has been playing a lot of Aphelios, a decent amount of Varus. I like seeing the Varus. Aphelios is good. I'm not a huge fan of Ziggs bot right now. I think it's a little trappish. This is a great Peanut meta in general. Okay, so they play a lot of Varus. So that's going to be a contested pick. That's really all you have to pick around probably in the bot lane. They're going a ton of Leona and Braum. So you can... It's interesting teams like this because you know what they have been playing. It doesn't mean that's the only thing they can play, though. Obviously, they're professional players, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't necessarily represent what they think are the best champions. It's just that's good enough. That's a good enough draft in most situations to beat a lot of these teams. So just based off of this, I think that Rich should have an advantage in the top lane. Like, not an advantage, not from a talent perspective at least. I think in the draft, it's very likely that we get Rich in a good matchup champion wise. In the jungle, most of the matchups are going to be pretty even, but I would take Peanut in that situation then, if they're even, because I think Peanut's the better player. In the mid lane, things like Lissandra, if you look and you see a champion like Lissandra in there, it means that they're responding to the other team's draft. So response picks generally, I think, are pretty bad. So I'd watch out for that. Then the Varus, that's fine. I mean, it's a lane dominant champion, so I hope that Nongshim doesn't try to let that through. That'd be a mistake. And then Leona Braum, it's pretty straightforward. So I think Nongshim should be able to win that one. Let's just get the odds up. They should have odds for this already. LPL, LEC, Korea, USA. So Nongshim is minus 161. I think that's a really good number for Nongshim. I would definitely play it at 161. The issue is that if I'm right, and well, if I'm right that I don't have a good understanding of a Freak of Freaks, then maybe this is just like uh, a really good line by the books to convince, well, not convince, to influence people to bet Nongshim. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. That's fine. T1 against Sandbox. Sandbox is another team that I don't have a ton of respect for Sandbox. So they finished 11-7 just like T1, but T1. So let's actually, so Nongshim against a Freak or Freaks went 1-1. T1 against Sandbox. Sandbox beat TSM twice, or T1 twice. Huh, that's interesting. Where is it? Sandbox. Okay, it's right there. Week 2 and week 7. So let's go to the week 7 one. Okay, I mean, just a good match from Sandbox. Interesting. I'm never gonna pick against T1 here though, so I'm kind of stuck playing T1. If you have good reasons for why Sandbox should be the better side here, I'd like to hear them. In a best of 5, I would think that these numbers should be higher. I would think they're both closer to 60%, where it's like a minus 200 or something like that. But that's fine. Is there reseeding? 3rd seed faces 6th seed. Oh, it's there. Okay. 1st seed chooses who they want to play. Okay, so there's nothing else I can really do here. So that's it for the LCK. We'll check in on that next week. LPL. There have been a lot of good matches in the playoffs so far. So I think we're still in the 1st and 2nd rounds. Yeah. Okay, so LNG against Suning. Let me just get what I wrote up on this. So before this match, I said that in terms of pure value, I sort of like LNG because the line just seems wrong to me. I wanted Suning to win, and I picked Suning to win, but it just seemed like a bad line. So it was plus 196, which means that LNG wins at 30% of the time, right? Which was just obviously wrong. Yeah, just obviously wrong. So that was interesting. But then I really didn't expect them to beat... Well, let's just do the Suning one first. So in the Suning matchup, like I said, you have a Lissandra response pick. It's really not what you want to do. Because it just lets them dictate the entire game. Like, you're responding to what they do on the map the entire game that way. Tarzan has been playing really well so far in the postseason. They almost made the complete comeback, which is pretty cool. Bin on Jax is nice. Bin on Akali is nice. And then Bin on Camille is nice. So Ale did a good job here in the 3 wins that they had. Really not a player that I'm in love with. I think in general Tarzan's really the key behind that team. OMG against World Elite. I had World Elite here. I was thinking like Cream seems like the kind of player who's going to be good long term. So if they went off, I wouldn't have been shocked. But Team World Elite I think is just too much as a team. So they 3-0'd them. That was pretty easy. And then Top Esports against LNG. This was pretty surprising. I'm not shocked that Jackie Love and Top Esports played bad, but to lose this convincingly to LNG was a little surprising. Like, this is why I think that Ziggs is a bad bot lane pick, is because if you pick it too early in the draft, the other team has a lot of options to just, like, they know that you're just going to wave clear. So Vayne isn't generally going to be able to perma-shove or anything like that, but if you just continuously put Ziggs against Vayne one-on-one, Vayne's going to be a lot more powerful as the game goes on. And I'm not saying that every time someone picks Ziggs, they're going to pick Vayne and, like, outscale, but that's another potential problem with this type of pick. And then, obviously, I mean, Jackie Love just kind of dies a ton in a lot of spots. So AP bot laners, I just don't love it right now. Like, I like the idea behind it, and I think that it's really situational, but teams are playing it like it's an optimal strategy, and it's really not, because you lose out on a lot of other stuff with your team composition. Specifically, like, the consistent damage out of an AD carry, so that's whatever. In this game, this was a pretty boring game, but again, Jackie Love got caught out in mid lane, I think, during like a key fight, and they lost that. And then I think the same thing happened in this game. So LNG is getting to the point where you really need to show some other stuff against a team like RNG, but we'll get into that next. And then World Elite against BLG. So World Elite, I mean, World Elite is a team that we've been high on all year. I mentioned them in the preseason video, like they could make a run and be a team that has a chance to win a championship. So now they're listed as the favorite over Rare Atom. They shouldn't be listed as the favorite. It's moved too much. So, like, if you posted a look ahead line when World Elite was in like their first match in playoffs, this would have probably been Rare Atom minus 150. But World Elite has looked so good in their last 2 matches that the book has moved the line so much, which I think World Elite will win. I want World Elite to win, but I can't bet World Elite at minus 120 because you've lost all of the value of that line. So that's something I'm gonna have to stay away from. World Elite against BLG, it was just a really it was a really convincing match for them. I do like that BLG tried putting Zika onto more like carry focused champions, but then they went into response pick. But BLG's drafting this entire split has been pretty bad. I think that if they had Coma still, they would have had a chance to pull something off. But the coaches, like, I don't know if it's all on the coaches, but I feel like BLG's consistently put at a disadvantage in the draft. And they just don't utilize Zika the right way. Like, Zika has the upside of being one of the best mid laners in the world. Aiming has the upside of being one of the better. He has the upside of being an above average AD carry. So you're just not using the tools at your disposal the right way, in my opinion. Okay, so let's look at the matches that are coming up. So first up, we have RNG LNG. So RNG is minus 250 favorite, so that's about 60%. So really the only question you have to ask yourself is, can LNG beat RNG? And if they can, how do they do it? So I do think that they can beat RNG. They're a beatable team. They're overvalued, right? They're overvalued, overrated, however you want to say it. So let's go into match history. And some of this is going to be like speculation, but I just really can't help myself from feeling this way. So let's see. All right, so first up in the top lane, Xiaohu against Ale. Xiaohu is the better player, but there are sometimes in their drafts where Xiaohu gets put into a bad matchup or just like picks the losing side of a matchup and isn't really focused on. So like these Gnar games, these Gragas games, these are more like when their stress levels get higher, I feel like RNG just plays a weird way. Like they don't play the same style that has gotten them to the point that they're at. So I think that there's a higher percent chance that we see something like a Gragas top or like a passive top laner for Xiaohu, when in reality they should probably be attacking top lane in this matchup. Like the reason why I think the Ale and Bin matchups were good for Ale is because they had a scaling champion. There wasn't a lot of attention put onto the top lane, and then it was like just a 1v1, and then it really slowed down the entire game, and then LNG just won kind of from that perspective because Tarzan was creating advantages. So could that happen here? Like, I think the answer is yes. So in the top lane, you have a player picking a ton of carry champions and another player picking a lot of carry champions, but also some more tank champions. So if we get Ale on a carry and Xiaohu on a tank, and LNG plays around top lane, then there's a much better chance that they can build like a real advantage and win through the top lane. So I think most people would say, you know, Xiaohu's going to win this matchup 9 out of 10 times. But through the draft, I think that it's through the draft and jungle attention and like how you can play out this game, I think that LNG actually has good chances in the top lane. In the jungle, you have Wei against Tarzan. Tarzan is just a better player than Wei. So, I mean, for that reason, I think you just kind of have to give the advantage to LNG in the jungle. Most junglers are playing all the same champions. You see a lot of Lee Sin, which I think is not really a good thing. Volibear is an okay champion, but not a very good champion. Like, I don't want to see Tarzan on Zac. I like a lot of the other champions in this meta though for Tarzan. Tarzan can play anything. Tarzan was considered the best jungler in the world. Like that's not something I think we'll ever say about Wei. Like this team is not built around Wei. Wei does well in this meta, I think, because it's a meta that allows junglers to shine, and it was really weird. I think somebody said, in an interview for the LEC, or was it for the LCS? On one of the Western broadcasts, they were like interviewing a jungler, and the jungler was saying like, yeah, it's really not a good meta for junglers. It's like the past year and a half or 2 years, the entire game has been about the jungler. It just blew my mind that they would say something like that. But it's whatever. In the mid lane, we have Icon against Cryan. Icon's a really good player. This matchup is Cryan against Icon is so close. Like when RNG was being talked about like they were the best, people probably have a high opinion of Cryan because of that. But then Cryan had a pretty bad summer split, so people started questioning, is Cryan the weak link? I don't think that Cryan should have gotten as much credit as they did when they were playing really well, and I don't think they really deserved a lot of the blame. Cryan didn't play well. I'm not saying that they played well, but it was a confluence of multiple things. Like Wei was not playing as well, Xiaohu was not playing as well. Gala in particular, I think, was the biggest underachiever in the beginning part of this season. And just look at all those Varus games. Like that's the kind of thing that you like to see if you're LNG, because you just want to pick 1 or 2 points in like their generic draft and just attack it. So if LNG is ever blue side, you can either first pick the Varus, or you can ban it out. So I mean, some people are going to be okay with picking Ezreal into the Varus or Ziggs into Varus. I think if you put Light on Varus and RNG has the response pick of Ezreal or Ziggs, I think that LNG would just win. I don't think RNG is not the kind of team that should give up the tempo advantage in the early game and give away draft advantages that potentially make them lose the laning phase. It's just a stupid way to play. So I think that that's another reason why we should think that LNG has a good chance to win this match. Now, I mean, RNG is a good team fighting team. They're never truly out of it. Like you have such good players. You have such good player in Xiaohu, and I'm not trying to say that Wei's not good. Wei's a good LPL jungler, but they're not as good as Tarzan. Cryan could be better than Icon, but I think it's very close. And then Gala and Ming. I mean, Ming's a very good player. I think Gala's overrated, but I think Gala's still pretty good. But I guess ultimately that's what scares me about this matchup for LNG is like if they don't think Varus is that good and they just give away Varus every single game because they want to play Ziggs, they want to play Syndra, they want to play Ezreal, something like that, then I think they kind of give up their biggest chance at turning the series on its head. So if you have the chance to bet after the drafts are done, then obviously that's a good spot. Because I do think that this matchup is going to come down to drafting. I think one interesting way to get exposure to this would be betting on LNG to win one of the first, like, probably the first game in the match, the first 2 games in the match. Just individually, not as a parlay or anything like that. But I like LNG's chances a lot here. I think that RNG as a team is just very overrated. Now, I could see this going like 5 games and RNG pulling it out in a very close way. So like that the people who are on RNG just like, oh, it was a tough match, but we still won. But I want to be on LNG in this spot. Next up, Rare Atom and World Elite. Breathe is better than Cube. Beishang is better than Leon. Shanks and Fofo are not very different in my opinion, but people have been giving Fofo so much credit for the entire year. I just think that Shanks is like going to be given too much credit in this spot, so I'm willing to go against my gut instinct and say that Fofo is better. And then iBoy and Hong against Elk and Missing. I think Elk and Missing are just better. So from a talent perspective, I think World Elite is just better in 4 out of 5 spots. And that's really it. Like I don't have to go any further than that. It's just everybody has been talking about Rare Adam. Everybody was talking about Rare Adam going into the season. Everybody well, not everybody. A lot of people just talk about Rare Adam as if they're some kind of good team, when I just really don't think they're a good team. They win a lot of the matches they're supposed to win. But what do they do that's more than that? Like, let's take a look at their at how they performed against the different teams. So Rare Adam beat BLG, lost to EDG, which is fine, lost to FPX, beat IG, lost to JDG, beat LGD. You're supposed to beat LGD, beat LNG. You're probably, like, going into the season, Rare Adam's supposed to beat LNG. Rare Adam's supposed to beat OMG. Lost to Rogue Warriors, beat Suning, which is okay, beat World Elite in the past, which, okay, that's pretty good. When was that? I guess we should look at that. Beat TT, beat Top Esports. The Top Esports win is a good one. So they ended up going 11-5. They just don't feel like a 3 seed to me. Rare Adam World Elite. Week 3. Okay, so this is 2 months ago. Week 3. Let's see who their mid laner was for World Elite. Yeah, they were still playing Mole at that point, so I think if you want to be on World Elite, you can kind of just throw that away. I'm on World Elite. I'm not playing Rare Adam there. It's definitely World Elite for me. Yeah, so in this matchup, RNG against LNG, I would pick LNG because I think it's closer than people think. And then Rare Adam against World Elite. Everybody's on World Elite, but I'm not getting off of World Elite at this point. I want World Elite to win. So that's it for the LPL. We had a lot of matches on the West, in the West. So let's see. Evil Geniuses against Dignitas. It was not very convincing, but EG pulled it out. This was a spot where it was actually very convincing. I don't know what I'm talking about. It was a very convincing win for them. Cloud9 against Team Liquid. That's a spot where I think that C9 should have been able to win, but they were not. So I don't like the Kench. We saw this a couple times from G2 and C9. I just think that it's an okay champion, but it's not a blind pickable champion. Like, it's not easy to be influential. Tahm Kench is similar to Ornn in the sense that, like, if you're not basically hitting skill shots, which, like, you don't think of Tahm Kench as a skill shot champion, but in a fight, if Tahm Kench isn't able to hit a knockup or something, what's Tahm Kench really doing? It's just not a lot. Like, you're a tank, but you're not really a peeling tank. It's pretty questionable. So C9 went to the losers bracket. It's kind of whatever. Good win from Team Liquid. Immortals destroyed Dignitas. C9 destroyed Golden Guardians. Then we had 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses. So, Evil Geniuses, I mean, that Danny game was insane. That Tristana play was crazy. So, good game here. This is fine. This game was... If you haven't watched this game, you have to go back and watch this game. This game was amazing. 100 Thieves shouldn't have lost this game. And right after EG pulled this one out, I thought that Evil Geniuses was going to be able to win Game 5 off of momentum. But then they subbed out Contracts for Svenskeren, and they just couldn't get it done in the last game. The last game wasn't Svenskeren's fault. I don't think that Contracts would have made the difference in this draft against this team. But it's just like, if you're trying to make Contracts your long-term jungler, you should have just left him in there. Because that guy probably has so many like mental scars from being subbed out previously that I just don't know if it's worth it to potentially do that again. But I just don't understand how you go from having like an insane Danny game to putting him on Ziggs. Ziggs isn't a playmaking champion, and Danny is one of your main playmakers. So I think that was a huge mistake from Evil Geniuses. But we'll see what they do in the future. Team Liquid against TSM, that happened yesterday. I wanted TSM to win, but I figured it was a good spot that TSM loses like in this spot all the time. So Gnar against Aurelia. Aurelia should beat Gnar at some point during that game. So as long as TSM doesn't get completely stomped out in the early game, they should have won this. Again, another Ziggs loss. I need to look at that, actually. I need to look at the stats for Ziggs. Let's do that real quick. Actually, I'll do it right after this. So, just don't let me forget. So, Ziggs lost. I didn't end up watching these games. I saw this game. This game was a blowout. This game was on while I was picking up food. I was on the golf course today, as per usual. Champion stats. So Ziggs is 3-2 so far in the playoffs. Ziggs was 5-8 during the regular season. So Ziggs is the kind of champion where the way that I think about it is good teams can pick Ziggs against bad teams because the bad teams can't punish you well enough. Bad teams pick Ziggs because they think it's broken, but are able to be beaten because like the better team can just attack the Ziggs. It's funny how that happens like that. Like there is strength in a champion, but a lot of these teams just don't understand how to play champions the way that they don't have the same reasons for picking a champion. They think, oh, this champion is good, I'm just going to pick it. The teams that create, like, the teams that originally bring Ziggs into the meta have specific things they're playing around. It's like in football. If there's an offensive coordinator who sees a specific kind of defensive coverage, thinks about, oh, this play would be very good to run against that kind of defense, and then they use it as a spot to like exploit the defense they're playing against all the time. So let's say they ran that once a week or twice a week or multiple times a week, and they were successful every single time. Then when people are looking, like when a less skilled offensive coordinator looks at that team or like watches that film, they think to themselves, oh, that's just a good play. They don't think, oh, that's a good play because this defense was lined up like this, and this is the matchup they were trying to get. So then they try running the play, and then it just gets stuffed at the line every single time. That's what's happening. It's like when you see jet sweeps run by the Rams or the 49ers, and then you see jet sweeps run by like the Giants or the Jets. It's like, oh, they're missing something here. It's tough to put my finger on it, but that's really what I think it comes down to. So Ziggs has a losing record there. And then I just want to see what the Zig stats are like. I think they'd probably be specifically bad in China. Like, I think it would probably do well in Korea because it's a slower game and the Zigs can kind of just keep scaling. Zigs again. Okay, so 38.4. Wait, no, 51% win rate. Okay, that's not so bad. Still don't like it. Pretty good win rate, 58%. Okay, that's fine. So let's go to the next games for the LCS. What? Championship. Alright, so we have EG against C9. C9 minus 172. Team Liquid against 100 Thieves. Why is Immortals TSM not on there? Thursday, Friday. What? Okay, this, I don't know how this makes any sense. Immortals against TSM. I'm on TSM there. I just think that they're the more talented team. C9 against EG. I'm going to be on C9 there. Like, that's a tough matchup for me. I want both teams to win, but you can't have both teams win. Let's just go to the LEC. This is going on a little too long. It's almost 5 o'clock now. Summer playoffs. So Rogue against Misfits. This was a really good match. I think Misfits played pretty well. Game 5, I feel like it was really close for a long time, and then oh yeah, oh my god. Go back and watch this game. So Misfits should have won this game. Inspired had a pentakill. So you need to watch this game. This was insane. G2 against Mad Lions. This is classic G2 where they play Tom Kench and things like Tom Kench and Dr. Mundo. So that's why I have an issue with, like, when C9 or G2 or RNG do this kind of thing, because they are generally the better team. You shouldn't be opting into these weird tank matchups just so that you have, like, a tanky champion in the late game, especially if that champion can't be, like, a huge influencer in those team fights. There were times where you would see a fight breaking out, and instead of Wonder teleporting to the fight to be there earlier, he would walk over. So, I mean, it's just really bad. I think that G2 has to figure out what they want to do for next season, because I don't think you can really have Wonder or Yonkos on this team if you want to try to win a world championship. Their opportunity to get a player like Selfmade is gone, like, unless they try to buy out Selfmade. So I think it's a big mistake, and they'll probably regret it if they're not able to make it to Worlds this year. And it's, Yonkos didn't play well in the beginning of the split, but then did kind of turn it on as time went on. So I think the problem is probably Wonder, but it's tough to say. Mad Lions deserved the win. Actually, yeah. So I did watch these games. I watched the highlights for these games. So G2 won this game. G2 had a lead in this game. Probably should have won this game in my opinion. It just got out of control. Mad Lions snowballed really fast. Game 3, G2 definitely should have won this game. 100%. They had a big gold lead. Mad Lions won a team fight that they shouldn't have won because of Wonder. And then we're able to get a Baron. We're able to win another team fight and then end of the game. And then the last game, G2 just got completely outplayed. When you don't take advantage of your winning positions, you deserve to lose the series, so it's fine. Vitality against Fnatic. Vitality won game 1. Diana Yasuo is a great combination, and we'll probably see it as time goes on in playoffs. I'm fine with them running it back. They just weren't able to win that game. And then looks like a bot diff to me. For another tank top losing. Don't love Renekton mid, but I guess it worked, so that's fine. Good against 2.5 APs. Because that's basically what this is. You have 2 AP champions plus Varus, who does hybrid damage. I mean, Varus does a lot of physical damage, but a little additional value out of that. Niski on TF. Some things never change. So next up, we have Misfits against Fnatic. Somebody asked me about that in my... who was it? Dingo was asking me, what do I think about Fnatic against G2? And I'm like, Fnatic has to play Misfits first. And he's like, yeah, but everybody thinks Fnatic's going to win. I don't think Fnatic's going to win. I think that Misfits, this is their time to shine. This is when they take all of their experience from playing against Rogue, and they defeat Yamato Cannon for me. And then Rogue against Mad Lions. I kind of have to be on Rogue there. I think that Rogue is a better team than Mad Lions. Rogue's a more consistent team than Mad Lions. So that's basically it. Yep, that's basically it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.